Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Mid Morning. Construction projects on college campuses, amphitheaters, city parks, and paving our roads. Someone has to create those plans. One engineering firm in our area has been doing that for years. The man that is seen doing a lot of that work is Kevin Stafford. He joins me at the table this morning, and Kevin is a senior vice president at Neal Schaefer. I wanted to make sure I got that title right.
Yeah. The senior, what does that require, right?
That means you've been there a long time.
That's right. Some may say too long.
I've known and worked with you for many, many years and on many different projects. And I will say, if anybody can dumb something down enough for me to understand like you do, you are a miracle worker. So I've always enjoyed working with you. And one reason I asked you on Mid Morning was to kind of explain what engineering firms like Neal Schaefer do. And little did I know what a basket of things I would open by asking that question.
Right. And it's a loaded question, and we don't have enough time to cover the breadth of everything we do. But civil engineering, I tell folks, is really the outside environment that's built. Everything you see, everything from drainage, from the rain that comes out of the sky and where the water goes from there, we help control. To the roads, the streets, the water, the sewer, the environmental that's involved with that. And so as we get into projects, we can tie in probably 15 to 20 different disciplines that are all under the civil engineering umbrella. And so, when a young intern comes to us, I tell them, look, spend your first 4 years getting to know all those different disciplines because, your heart's going to find one. You found civil engineering, but now under that umbrella, where do you really want to go? And so, it's a really broad, it's obviously for me very rewarding. I know growing up, math and science applied to the outside environment. And that's kind of the way I really summarize civil engineering.
Yeah, because it does take you outside a lot. And when you're working on projects and, you're trying to approach projects, I know one of the first things you tell me is, look, you may see my face, but there's a whole team working behind the scenes.
That's right. Nowadays in schools, they teach kids to really learn how to work in a team. And that's so critically important with what we do. I was in a meeting yesterday on a single project and it had 25 professionals in the room and everybody in the room did something different. And again, even under our umbrella in our camp, if it's just a civil engineer, which we're probably 10% of let's just say a site project, at the end of the day, we may end up having 15, 20 people underneath the civil side. So there's so many people that come into that, everything from, your office admin to your field surveyors, your geotechnical engineers. We have designers, let's just say on a site, you may have a water designer, a sewer designer, a site drainage designer, H&H as we call it. You may have a structural engineer that's maybe doing the bridges on the site and then also maybe the foundation of the building, the inner walls of the building. And then you may have a transportation engineer who may be doing a roadway, a parking lot, a roundabout. And even inside of the roadway and the parking lot and the roundabout, you may have different professionals that even specialize in those type designs. So it can go all over the place.
It really can. And this is so fascinating because, we think about, well, they're just going to go out there and pave a road or they're just going to install a water line. That's not exactly how it works. And the federal rules behind all this, even the paperwork of like watershed and things of that nature and environmental studies that you have to do, asbestos, it's all out there.
It is, it really is. People don't understand, and it's often I'll have private landowners that come to me that want to build something, and we go look at their property and say, I'm sorry, but you have this amount of wetlands or this amount of streams that are waters of the U.S. that are classified and protected, and so you're going to have to go through these steps and pay this money to get past that hurdle, and sometimes they just back off and say thanks, but no thanks. We've had several that have spent tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars mitigating that so they can move forward, and that really literally is one of the first steps is evaluating on the land what you have to work with. And then after that, it comes to creativity, the vision that the engineer brings to the project, whether it's a civil site engineer or a landscape architect, or, we work a lot with architects on sites. And so we all collaborate to kind of make the site, our built environment work, right? And so, but again, there's so many, we could spend hours talking about the things, the boxes you have to check to get through those.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. So let me ask you, what is one of your favorite aspects of the job. Well, I tell you what, hold that thought. Let's
Okay.
go to break. And when we come back, we'll hear more from Kevin Stafford. Stay with us. All right, welcome back, everybody. Kevin Stafford, Senior Vice President, Neal Schaefer, joining us this morning at the table just to kind of talk about your job and others at Neal Schaefer. So, right before the break, I was asking you, what is your favorite aspect of your position?
So, like I tell my interns, kind of keep your eyes open for everything. My favorite is civil site design, which means basically whether it's a commercial site, a retail site, or an industrial site, which we have a lot of in this area. It's fun for me to look at a raw piece of land and hear somebody's needs that they need on that land, whatever it may be, and then make it all work. Get water to it, get water to it, get sewer to it or from it. At the same time, build the roads, the parking lots, all the things that they need, meet the fire suppression. Again, going through the environmental on the front end, a lot of people don't like, but meeting what their needs are and their expectations are. And so, with that, you have to kind of be jack of all trades, master of none. So unfortunately, in my profession over the years, I kind of started in the water wastewater side, and then I got to looking around and realized that I kind of like the drainage side and the street side, and then we work a lot with DOTs and municipalities, and you really have to have all those tools on your tool belt to be able to kind of talk the talk and walk the walk, right? And so with that, that's my favorite aspect, which also ties into municipal work, because when something comes up in the city, it's never one approach or one aspect to the issue. There's a bunch of factors you have to take into account. And so, my favorite part is one, finding the solution, right? But then also tying in the team. I love bringing in our folks. We have 600 people in our firm, over 300 engineers, all of which have a different discipline. And I'll never forget, we had an engineer came to us from another firm to work, and he said, man, this is fun. All he did was roadway his whole career. And he said, this is fun because now I get to see who does the water and wastewater, and I get to see who does the landscape architecture, and I get to sell that to our client, offer them a profession that they haven't thought about, a need that they have, and serve it all in-house and be able to work as a team, and it's kind of cool. So you can do that with other firms, but one of the things that, again, working as a team, whether it's internal to a Neal Schaefer team or internal to a City of Columbus team, let's just say, from the municipal aspect. And so, you never know from day to day what you may work on. So for me, the monotony of one thing day to day is what I try to avoid, and I get to do that when you get to do all things civil site.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And your work with the City of Columbus, it takes you down different avenues and roads pretty much every day.
Right, it does. So, one day, obviously when it's raining, what's the hot topic? Drainage. So when roads, every year, roads are always a thing. They, no two roads are created equal. They don't deteriorate at the same rate. So they always are under evaluation. I always say there's never enough money for all the projects that are out there. So you're having to prioritize, what comes first, second, third. And again, it's not just roads, it's all the things under the city. So, but the beauty is one day you're repairing a bridge that was hit by a barge, right? The next day you may be looking at an amphitheater that's next to it. The next day you're maybe in Propes Park or the soccer complex and those are, again, not even drainage or water or sewer projects. So there's so many things that a city needs. And I always found, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, everybody's always behind better infrastructure. And that's what we do. At the end of the day, that is civil engineering. And so again, in 10th grade, I'll never forget, my light bulb went off. I love math and science, and I love being outdoors. And so that's what brought it together for me.
Yeah, definitely some good advice for any youngsters looking to go into that field. You're seeing video there of the amphitheater. We've talked about it a couple of times. You've seen our stories taking bids out now, so that's always exciting. Kevin, when you kind of look maybe 5 years into the future, 10 years into the future, got about a minute here, what do you think civil engineering looks like?
It's funny. You see driverless cars that are out there now. We've talked about cars that in the future will use your destination. We all have gotten, there's no more maps in the back seat of the car that you pull out anymore, right? Now you put it in your phone and you let GPS guide you in. And so in the future, I do know and believe that there will be driverless vehicles that you will get in and they will link up with other vehicles. So if we have, let's just say 10 people in Columbus that all type in the same GPS destination, they'll talk to each other and link up. And so that changes the way our transportation systems move us, and also changes the way we operate, obviously, but it also changes the way we design those roads. And so we design the roads for safety for all modes of transportation, and I think our future is going to change that. I do see that there'll probably be less of a need for, the old school was you need more capacity, you just add more lanes, and I think nowadays people are getting smarter about their modes of transportation. So bikes, trikes, scooters, skateboards, walking, all those things will also become bigger in city dwellings, and then
True.
transit also is starting to get more affordable these days.
All right. Wow. A lot of information there. I feel like we just scratched the surface.
Barely scratched the surface. It's fun. If you can't tell, I enjoy what I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thank
really
you, Joey.
appreciate you being here. All right. Well, we'll move on to some other news of the day. And speaking of outdoors, good news for hunters. The Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks extends deer season for this year only. The season will now end on February 2nd. The commission approved the measure for bucks and does. This rule applies to private lands in our region of the state and North Central Deer Management Units. This extends deer season about a week. It does not affect the annual bag limit. In fact, MDWFP encourages hunters to meet their limit. Marty Stewart's Congress of Country Music is singing a new tune in its fundraising efforts. The venue is planning an outdoor music festival that it plans to make an annual event. In a press release, the Congress of Country Music says the festival will take place in the heart of Philadelphia. There will be live and simulcast performances with the intent of showcasing the diversity and authenticity of country music. Dates have not been finalized for this year's first festival. This will serve as the main fundraiser for the Congress of Country Music. And speaking of country music, singer Morgan Wallen announcing his upcoming tour and new album and forthcoming single. The album is called I'm the Problem. The title track is set to be released next Friday, January 31st. His I'm the Problem Tour 2025 kicks off June 20th in Houston and will include 10 cities. This comes after Wallen pleaded guilty to 2 counts of reckless endangerment. In December, he was arrested in April for throwing a chair off a 6-story Nashville rooftop bar. Wallen was ordered to spend 7 days at a DUI education center and serve 2 years probation. Well, this recent cold weather has been stunning from people to wildlife. We'll tell you about these turtles' recovery after the break. Welcome back, everybody. It's a rare sight to see so much snowfall in the Deep South as we have in the last week or so, but medical emergencies still happen. An expectant Dothan, Alabama couple had to brave the elements to bring life into this world. You do not want to miss this story from Jacqueline Lambert.
Dallas Mitchell had quite the entrance.
I feel like Superwoman.
On Wednesday, the day after Dothan's historic snowfall, Shania began having contractions. So she and Keon, Dallas's father, braved the iced over roads.
It definitely slowed us down. And he was driving, so I was scared. I was thinking he was going to start panicking and start driving faster, but he did very good.
With 911 on the phone, the family traveled towards Flowers Hospital, but they didn't make it.
I really don't even know how I stayed cooked. I was really scared. I was scared too, but now I feel like I really could be a doctor now.
They got to an intersection a mile from Flowers Hospital where Dallas Mitchell refused to wait any longer.
I felt the baby had the red light. And so once we got into the Krispy Kreme parking lot, I couldn't stop pushing, and I just saw him sliding out. And I'm like, come grab him, come grab him.
By the time paramedics arrived, 5 pounds, 14 ounces Dallas had been born.
It's an experience to remember. It definitely is.
Well, Krispy Kreme was closed for the winter storm, but after learning what happened, the manager there, promised free donuts for a year and offered to host Dallas's first birthday party. How about that? All right, speaking of the southern cold weather, these turtles are trying to get some warmth. They are now in the care of the Gulf World Marine Institute in Panama City, Florida. The nonprofit is taking care of more than 150 cold-stunned turtles. Staff and volunteers are trying to get them into warmer waters following the unusual temperature drops in Florida. In order to prevent shock, the turtles can only be warmed up by 3 to 5 degrees each day. Well, there are 2 new and popular furry residents in the nation's capital. Yeah, I'm sure there's a joke there. The giant pandas recently made their debut at Washington, D.C.'s Smithsonian National Zoo. This is the only place in the world where the general public can see giant pandas for free. Both of them are 3 years old. The ceremony of their unveiling is available on the zoo's Facebook page and YouTube page. All right, well, a new poll shows, actually, you know what? We're going to go to break. We'll be right back. Well, officially, welcome back, everyone. And back to that poll showing there is growing public concern about the health effects of moderate drinking. A CNN poll found half of U.S. adults say moderate drinking is bad for one's health. That's more than double the amount of people who had that opinion 2 years ago. Alcohol has been linked to cancer, but research has also found moderate drinking may have potential health benefits. For example, moderate drinkers may have a lower risk of heart attack and non-fatal stroke. Current guidelines say men should limit daily alcohol intake to 2 drinks or less, and women should have 1 drink or less. As Californians think about rebuilding, a picture of survival is starting to emerge. This Pacific Palisades house was built last year with several fireproofing features in mind, and it may very well represent the future of fire resiliency. In this segment of Eye on America, CBS's David Shader returned to a Colorado town destroyed by fire to show us what's known as the passive design approach.
You want a little bit of yogurt, bud?
It's hard to miss that 4-year-old Alex Ela is enjoying having a news photographer visit his new house. It's nice to have something to smile about.
The fire was 2 days before his first birthday.
Let's go.
We're gonna go now, we're going.
A wildfire still tearing through Boulder County.
The Marshall Fire was the worst in Colorado history. Eric Ela's family lost their home, 2 cats, and have lived in 4 places in 3 years.
It's like, are we going to the new home or we're going back to the new home? It's like, no, this is the home.
Yeah.
We're home now.
We're staying.
Yeah.
When it came time to rebuild in their town of Superior, where new construction is everywhere, the Elas chose a design concept called Passive House. It behaves different in a fire than a traditional house, where embers get sucked inside through roof vents. It's one of the reasons why we've seen homes in Los Angeles burning from the inside out, something the Passive Home seeks to prevent.
There's very few places for an ember to get caught.
Johnny Rizvani, who supplies materials for Passive Homes, is telling us compared to the roof vents on most houses, this house has just a single air intake, and inside a powerful filtration system that controls the flow of air, keeping the embers out.
As opposed to most homes, you've got a lot of different vents for a lot of different purposes.
This has one.
This has one intake. And in an extreme weather situation, what you would do if you had to evacuate is you would close off that intake.
This home in Los Angeles, the only one still standing in its neighborhood, followed similar building principles. But the challenge for some homeowners is the cost. It can be up to 7% more to build a home like this, and that might be one reason why just 6 of the 300 homes that have been rebuilt in this town are passive. But there is another way that the state of Colorado is dealing with this on a much larger scale, and that's a new state law.
Right away, I was shocked that we don't require building standards.
Lisa Cutter is a Democratic state senator.
Why was that surprising to you?
If your house isn't well protected and you don't do everything you can and mitigate for fire around the property, etc., then you're putting your neighbor's house at risk.
In Colorado, more than 1 million structures are built in places that meet or mix with natural areas where there's a threat of wildfire. Across the U.S., it's 48 million homes, or a third of all housing. Cutter pushed for the creation of Colorado's Wildfire Resiliency Code Board. It will identify areas with the highest wildfire threats and for the first time enforce mandatory wildfire construction codes.
People should be building in a way that's appropriate for the environment they live in.
When you think about climate change, do you feel like you need to be prepared for things that are worse than you ever thought they were going to be?
I mean, we've experienced something that I never thought you'd experience, and I'm ready for it to happen again.
Across the West, the time has come for some people to rethink how they live with fire and how they rebuild from it. For Eye on America, David Schechter, Superior, Colorado.
1.4 billion people took international trips last year. The United Nations World Tourism Organization says the number is about the same as 2019, which was the last full year of travel before COVID. Each traveler spent on average about $1,000, contributing to the $1.9 trillion spent on international tourism. The most popular destination is in Europe, specifically France. It is not surprising considering the nation hosted the Olympic Games and Notre Dame reopened to visitors. Spain was the second most popular destination. Meanwhile, sales of existing homes in the U.S. fell last year to the lowest level in almost 3 decades as sky-high home prices and elevated mortgage rates squeezed home buyers. Sales of previously owned homes, which make up the vast majority of the market, totaled just over $4 million in 2024. That's from the National Association of Realtors. These figures are the lowest level since 1995 and just slightly below 2023. The average rate on a conventional 30-year fixed mortgage reached a peak of 7.22% last year. It's now about 6.96%. The average price for an existing home has climbed 18 straight months, reaching a record high of $407,500. All right, we'll be back to wrap things up. Stay with us. Thank you so much for joining us on Mid Morning. We hope you have a great day.